let's talk about one of the most incredible military campaigns in all of history, Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul. Now, this isn't just a story about swords and shields. It's about massive ambition, mind-blowing engineering, and a culture clash that literally redrew the map of Europe.
And it all really boils down to this one question. How on earth did one Roman general take on a whole country full of tough, independent tribes and bring it all under Roman rule? All right, to get this whole thing, you have to start with the man himself, Julius Caesar. And the key thing to remember about him is that before he was a famous general, he was an extremely ambitious politician. See, back in his day, Rome wasn't an empire with an emperor on top. It was a republic, and the real power was in the hands of the Senate. Caesar was already a big shot in Roman politics, but he wanted to be the guy. And he knew that to get there, he needed one thing above all else: a huge, spectacular military victory to make him a legend.
And this is so important. This whole massive 8-year-long war didn't kick off because Rome was in danger or anything like that. Nope. It started because Caesar looked at Gaul, that's basically modern-day France, and saw it as his personal ladder to ultimate power and glory.
But how does one man's ambition actually translate into conquering an entire country? Well, it wasn't just about having a ton of soldiers. The real secret weapon was the Roman war machine itself. It was just on another level when it came to organization, training, and technology. And the heart of that machine was the Roman legion. Try to picture it, a unit of about 5,000 soldiers. But these weren't just farmers who picked up a spear when they had to. No, these were full-time professional soldiers. They trained constantly, they served for years, making them one of the deadliest and most effective fighting forces the world had ever seen. And just look at the gear they carried. Each legionary was like a walking tank. You've got heavy iron armor, a huge shield, a short sword called a gladius for up-close fighting, and a nasty throwing spear called a pilum that was designed to bend and break enemy shields. But look at that last one, tools. That's because these guys were just as much builders as they were fighters. And this right here might have been their greatest advantage. The Roman army could literally build their way to victory. Every single night, after marching all day, they would build a complete fortified camp with walls and ditches in just a matter of hours. They could throw up massive bridges across rivers the Gauls thought were impossible to cross. This engineering skill wasn't just a bonus, it was their superpower. So you've got this amazing army. How does Caesar actually use it to take over Gaul? Well, he didn't just rush in. He used a strategy that's as old as time: divide and conquer. You see, Caesar knew that Gaul wasn't one unified country. It was made up of hundreds of different tribes that often fought each other. So he played them against one another perfectly. He'd find an excuse to fight one tribe, crush them, then move on to the next. He just kept pushing, year after year. He even crossed the English Channel to invade Britain, which for the Romans was like going to the edge of the known world. He was picking them off, one by one. For years, this strategy worked like a charm. The Gallic tribes fought on their own, and they lost on their own. But after years of this grinding Roman conquest, something was about to change in a very big way. And that change had a name: Vercingetorix. He was this young, charismatic Gallic nobleman who did what everyone thought was impossible. He got the tribes to stop fighting each other and unite against the Romans. And you can see the difference right here. Caesar had his single professional army fighting for his own glory. Vercingetorix pulled together a massive coalition of different tribes, all fighting for one simple thing: freedom. Now, Vercingetorix was no fool. He knew that taking on the Roman legions and a traditional head-on battle was basically a death sentence, so he came up with a new, brutal plan: starve them out. He convinced his own people to do the unthinkable, to burn their own villages and fields to the ground. This scorched earth strategy meant that as the Roman army marched, they couldn't find any food or supplies. For the very first time, Caesar's unstoppable army was in serious trouble.
Okay, so this all leads to one of the most famous and frankly insane battles in all of ancient history, the Siege of Alesia. This was it, the final showdown. Everything was on the line for both sides.
Here's the setup. Vercingetorix gathers his huge army of about 80,000 warriors inside a well-defended hilltop town called Alesia. His plan was to hunker down and wait. He'd sent messengers out to every tribe in Gaul, calling for a second, even bigger army to come and attack the Romans from the outside, trapping them between a rock and a hard place. But this is where Caesar's engineering genius goes into overdrive. Instead of attacking the town, he decides to trap the trappers. His soldiers build a massive 11-mile wall completely encircling Alesia, locking Vercingetorix in. But then, knowing that giant relief army was coming, he ordered his men to build a second wall, this one facing outwards, to defend themselves. It was an absolutely incredible engineering achievement. So now you've got the Romans literally sandwiched between two enormous enemy armies. They had to fight a desperate battle on two fronts at the exact same time. They were completely surrounded and massively outnumbered. It all came down to their training, their discipline, and those walls they built. And after a series of just brutal, bloody battles, the disciplined Roman soldiers somehow managed to hold their ground. The Gallic relief army finally broke and fled, and with no hope left, a starving Vercingetorix was forced to surrender. The rebellion was over, the war was won, but the consequences of this victory were just getting started. The results of this war were staggering. For the people of Gaul, it was a complete catastrophe. Historians think millions were either killed or sold into slavery. Their culture was eventually absorbed into the Roman world, and they adopted the Latin language, which, over centuries, turned into French. And for Caesar, he got everything he wanted. The war made him unbelievably rich, and his soldiers were now loyal to him, not to the Senate. And that power absolutely terrified the politicians back in Rome, leading directly to a civil war that would destroy the Roman Republic itself. You know, it's pretty wild when you think about how we know all these details. Our main source of information is actually a book written by Julius Caesar himself. But he did this really clever thing. He wrote the whole book in the third person. So instead of I did this, it's Caesar did this. It made him sound like an objective historian just telling the story of this amazing general. It was a brilliant piece of PR to make himself look like a hero back home. Which brings us to the big question that we're still left with today. The conquest of Gaul was, without a doubt, a turning point in world history. It made Caesar a legend and it turned Gaul into what would become France. But it came at a terrible, terrible price. So what do you think? Was Caesar a hero who built an empire? Or was he a ruthless villain who destroyed an entire culture just for his own ambition? There's no easy answer, and it's something people still argue about thousands of years later.